Smiling at the end of the meal because I would ask if they wanted coffee and one time they said, yeah, I'll have an avocado. You guys know what that is? Some people, okay, I did. Because when I said to her, I was like, she wanted.
Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Good morning. Good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're tuning in from. Let's see here. We are back in New York City. It's been a whirlwind unpacking, getting stuff organized. I've been having to kind of approach my plants in sections. So while we were away, there was a big freeze here in New York City. There was a huge storm, a lot of really low temperatures. So a lot of our plants did not very much like that. So I've been kind of approaching it in sections. I'm still going. This guy lost a bunch of leaves, this neon philodendron. This Scindapsus that I have over there has a couple yellow leaves. So yesterday I spent a couple hours doing all these guys, checking them, inspecting them, removing any dead leaves, touching up, kind of refilling any like perlite or anything. Yeah, and while we were away, I guess our cats also had like tipped over stuff. It was just, yeah. So I was having to do a lot of plant maintenance these last few days. And I'm not done. I'm nowhere near done. So it's still going. It's still going. But I have a couple done. And that is Indigo, if you can hear him. Someone just asked, yes, they are indoor, yes, definitely. But in our living room, we have a permanently installed AC unit. And so there is a draft that comes through there during the winter. So here we live in an apartment building, and so the heat doesn't turn on during the day unless it's like completely freezing. If the inside building temperature is over 55, the heat doesn't kick in. And it usually only kicks in at night. So it can get pretty chilly here in the winter during the day. So we have like a little space heater, basically. And then the humidity, because of that cold and dry air, drops the humidity in here. So we have to run our humidifiers in the winter. I put on like pots of hot boiling water. I leave them on the stove, huge pots of water to kind of bring up the humidity for the plants. So even right now, during the night, it dropped to 33% humidity. And so right now we have the humidifiers on, and we're going to bring that back up. But yeah, it gets pretty dry in here, and cold. Of course, cold for me and cold for the plants is below 70. But it gets chilly. It gets chilly in here. So I always, since we do have a majority of our plants are tropical plants, we have gauges all over the house that have our temperature and humidity percentages, so that we can keep an eye on that. We can definitely keep an eye on that. But there were some pretty cool things that like leaves that came in while we were away. This carry here, for instance, this leaf right here is brand new. It was a little stub when we left, and the whole leaf has come through quite quickly. And last time I saw it, it looked like a little paddle. It was just like this little thing, and it's actually now heart-shaped. And that's the first leaf that this has given me in like a year. This has been happily there, just hanging out. Um, and I think I only lost one leaf in the beginning, but it was a leaf that was already on its way out when I got the plant. Um, and it just kind of was there. It wasn't growing, but it wasn't doing poorly. Um, and I let her completely dry out between watering. So I actually wait until it looks almost a little bit wrinkled before I water it, because it's a Hoya, but it's a very, very succulent Hoya. So I don't want to overwater her. So I literally wait until she looks a little wrinkled, and then I give her a deep soak, and then I forget about her again. So sometimes I can water her in the summer, maybe every 3 weeks or so, maybe 2, 3 weeks. In the winter, again, maybe 3 weeks, even 3 to 4 weeks. So I just kind of leave her be, but she finally gave me a leaf, and it's in the winter. So I don't know, but she seems to have been happy. So I think the cold snap, I don't know. She liked it. She liked it. So that's my Hoya carrii, which is also known as the sweetheart Hoya, that they sell during Valentine's Day, just the leaf in a pot, and it looks like a little heart. So if you don't have a node, those will never grow. They'll just kind of stay that size. But a leaf like that, well rooted and established, can last even up to 2 years. But if there is no node, it's just going to stay that little one leaf forever, unfortunately. But this is the vine, so that's what they're supposed to look like. Another cool thing is, if you remember my Jatropha, so this was a plant that I got last June, and it was just a stub. It was just a stem, because I had ordered it from Ecuador, and the leaves were all rotted when it got here. But Ecuagenera was really awesome, and they gave me a refund, a credit to buy another plant, basically, but then told me I could take the stub home. And because I had to go physically to pick them up, pick up my order. So and they said, take the stub home in case you can revive it. And I've been showing you, it started as a little leaf, and it continued. And then I saw a second leaf, and then now, so this was the main leaf that had come in. I love the shape of it. But now we have this little leaf right here, and we have this little leaf right here, and there's more coming. There are more, well, it's hard to see, but there's these little stubs. So there's more coming. I love these leaves. They're so pretty. And from the back, you can see that these really pretty veins. It's really, really pretty. And it was just a stub. So slowly but surely, it's coming back. Super, super neat plant. So happy about that. But yeah, I've just been doing plant chores and household chores these last few days that we got back. Yeah. Oh, Elizabeth, that is a Jatropha. I think it's a nudicalis. Jatropha. Yes. Jatropha nudicalis. So Jatropha nudicalis. And I've seen a lot of Jatropha actually I saw a lot in El Salvador, quite a few in Costa Rica. So it is a succulent, but it does do well in well-draining soils in the tropics. So it's really neat. It's also called like Buddha belly is another common name for them, because they do tend to get a really thick kind of trunk, like the stem gets really, really thick. And yeah, but they get really cool leaves, and they're pretty resilient. So I'm grateful for that. So I had my little stub, and it's coming back. But yeah, so I also wanted to show you, I don't think I showed you, I know I showed everyone that my mom is an artist, but she gave me some more paintings to bring. So I was putting them up yesterday. So let me take my laptop with me here. Okay, so this is the opposite side. So this is what I'm staring at when I'm teaching. So this was a painting that my mother had given us in 2019, the last time we went. And so we had it framed. I eventually do want to get these new ones framed, but I wanted to put them up. So this is one that she did, and that's a red-eyed tree frog. And then this one is another one that she did. And then another red-eyed tree frog. So I put them up over these propagation tubes. Right now, these are full of silk plants. Right now, it's winter, so I don't want to put anything. We're right by the window here, so right now these are just silk for now. Oh, and this is, I think these are plastic. So this for now, and then as soon when it gets warmer, these are full of propagations, but it's just better than just having them like without anything. So, but yes, I have a lot of plant decor. For those of you who are maybe tuning in for the first time, we got a riser for our TV, so now I need to take this. Oh, here we go. This botanical print, I'm gonna move it up because now it's kind of behind the TV. So, but look, our Mayoi got hit with the cold, so this is something we're kind of going around section by section. So this is when we're doing our plant chores. This is what it is. So this, for instance, is a section. Then this area here, that's a whole other section. So we go section by section. And so right now, today, this is the section I'm going to be working on. So I worked on the succulents yesterday, and so this is my section today. So I got to do some pruning of these leaves, these poor leaves. There's some damage here, but the leaf is still good of this exotica. So I might not cut this off. It's crispy, but I don't think I'm gonna harm it because the leaf is still working. It's still good. The cebu looks pretty good. I think there's like one yellow leaf. And the epipromoides, so this is the Monstera esqueleto. It looks great. So thankfully, nothing happened to my esqueleto. That was a birthday gift from Brian. So I'm very happy to see that nothing happened to it. And yeah, it's growing in a weird way. So I have this really beautiful lamp. So these are real leaves that were stained and glued. And the esqueleto, so I have it with this moss pole, but it just gave me a really long runner. And now that runner has intertwined with my cebu here. So it's starting to put out leaves, but it's tangled up in here. So I gotta separate these two before there's an accident. But yeah, so just been plant chores and house chores. So that's been my life the last couple days. And yeah. Oh, and I'll show you these last things here. So brought back another painting from my brother. So all animal and plant inspired paintings. So this is another painting that my mom did. So this one we're holding for my brother. We have to meet up with him this week. And then my mom also made these. So these little fairy houses. Hold on. There you go. And they have a light inside. So it looks like the fairies are having a rave. So we have that one, and she made let me see, and she made this one.
Oh, wow.
So brought home a couple art pieces to display around the house. Here we go. Okay. But I mean, overall, it was a really good trip. Um, Brian and I got a lot of rest, which was needed. Um, and we both were just like not feeling well. Um, I picked up some type of virus or something. I was just not feeling well, but it again, flip side, it made me rest more. So so yeah, so that we're gonna take that as a win. And it was a very nice place to recover too, because right before I left, I had a pretty bad fall. And so I hurt my ribs, I hurt my elbow, and my left leg. It's all bruising. Thankfully, I had gotten x-rays and thankfully no fractures, but they're like, you have you're bruised, your ribs are bruised. And my elbow. So I was like, oh, okay, great. And it was like 2 days before I had to leave. So it was terrible timing, but again, nice place to go. You know, Costa Rica was a very nice place to go to recover. A couple updates on the land. So we are there was a couple issues, some drama with the land. Brian is actually working on a 3D rendering of the land, and so I'm gonna see if we can screen record so I can show everyone what the plan is for the land. But yeah, so the previous owner had a shed that he kind of left on the land and never removed. So we wanted to put in a fence before we left Costa Rica. But then we realized that because he lives right, he basically had sold a portion of the land, the majority of the land is ours now. But he has his electricity, his wires were on this shed, but the shed is on our property, and we needed to take it down because we need to put up our fence. And so we had asked him to please remove everything so that if there was anything important, because we were going to have somebody come and demolish it since we need to put the fence up. And then with the holiday and after the new year, and we were coming back, my mother was like, oh, it's fine. We'll just give him a couple extra days. And so then over the weekend, she was like, all right, well, we have workers coming in this upcoming week, so I hope you got everything out. And apparently nothing was done. So now there's he's like, I don't have time, but we had given him a couple weeks. So we're trying to get that done. And when we sent the topographer out there to kind of give us a kind of like a layout, it kind of looks like a blueprint of the land. It turned out that the previous owner moved our border lines. So there's stakes in the ground that kind of mark off, like, this is our property, this is your property, and it's spray painted with like this hot pink spray paint. He pulled them out of the ground and he moved them like several feet, like 10, 12 feet. And he was making it look like we had this smaller portion of the land, and we were really confused. And the topographer was like, no, somebody moved this. It was obviously him. It was obviously him, because who else would move it? And so they put everything back, and that's why we want to get this fence up as soon as possible, because it appears, according to what we're hearing, is he sold the land, but he didn't tell his family that he sold the land. So since the land has been sitting there for a couple years, we haven't developed on the land yet. And so I guess he kind of kept saying that he still owned it. And I guess, so yeah. So George, he is actually a distant relative of ours. And so, so no, not a family friend. He's technically in our family. But yeah, so it just looks like so yeah, The land was part of his inheritance. And he made some really bad investments, and he didn't want the bank basically to take the land. And so he initially sold it to my mother, and then my mother sold it to us. So, but it looks like he never told his immediate family. So, it looks like he was trying to keep up appearances, like that he still owned all that land. It's a mess. It's a drama. We could do a whole soap opera on what's happening with the land. So we're just like, wait, what is happening right now? So we're gonna put up the fence hopefully this week. It's happening, and finally that can be squared away, and we're gonna start construction. So just really excited. It's finally happening. It's finally happening. So we have so many ideas. I'm like losing my mind of with the excitement. So I can't wait. We're gonna ask that pictures and video be taken. We're gonna try to go to Costa Rica a little bit more often throughout the year so that we can have eyes on it. But we'll have my mother and my uncle kind of going and supervising as well. So yeah, I'll bring you along on the journey. But we're super excited about that. And we're looking at property as well in El Salvador. So fingers crossed. So we're hoping to do that. But yeah, so I'll definitely bring you along. And let me get into this. Oh, I see a question. Al Michaels, I just had a question regarding what type of indoor plant I could get that's okay with direct sunlight. I have a dragon plant that's got its leaves burned, so had to move her to the shade. Would a snake plant be better at being in the sun, or what other plant besides a succulent would be good? That's a great question. So it all depends on what kind of direct sunlight are you getting. It sounds, if something is strong enough to get burned, I'm probably guessing it's a western or southern exposure. So if you're not sure how to figure out what direction is your sunlight coming from, you can use a compass app on your smartphone. But so eastern, okay, so all right. So you must be in a really nice direct path of sunlight. But yes, dragon plants, which I think you're referring to, the dracaenas, so called like dragon trees, they can be a little sensitive to getting a lot of light. And they also can, if there's a lot of fluctuations with humidity, they are very prone to crisping up pretty badly. Oh, awesome. So it is a dracaena. Yeah, so full sun. So you can put certain snake plants, like I would recommend something like a whale fin, maybe so like a trifasciata, Dracaena trifasciata. So some of the darker snake plants might be okay in some direct sunlight. I do have quite a few in my western window. And they're doing great, even with the evening sun. Southern light might be a little too much for them, but eastern, I mean, dracaena should be great in terms of the snake plants. The more softer foliage dracaena, yeah, that might be a little too strong. Something other than succulents that would do well in direct. Maybe a ficus, so probably a fiddle leaf fig, for instance. What else? Maybe a croton. A croton might be okay. They like a lot of sun. So a bright eastern window would probably keep them happy. I'm trying to think of non-succulent things because I have quite a few recommendations, but they're all succulents. Or succulent like, at least. Ooh, chain of hearts. So Ceropigias might be really happy. I have some in my western window that are doing really well. So they should do well. in an eastern window, definitely. I'm trying to think of non-succulent because my brain keeps popping up succulents. Probably also some types of peperomia as well. Begonias. Begonias might be very happy in an eastern window, maybe like an angel wing. And a spider plant, especially if you get a hanging one with some babies. Yeah. Oh, Al says what kind of snake plants? Yes, like a trifasciata. So they're the darker ones. Hold on, let me grab one to kind of show you the darker one. So I have quite a few of these around the house. But I really like this kind of dark, kind of zebra banding. These I have right in my western window. I have a giant one of these by my bedside in a southeastern window, and it's huge. It's like almost my height. So it's almost 5 feet tall, and it's huge. Really loving southeast light, and it's really bright in our bedroom. So, and this is in a western window, which is slightly obstructed because we have a courtyard. So we don't get full western light. It's blocked basically because there's a wall opposite, but we do get a light that comes in from above during the day. So this guy is in there. I also have a moonlight over here, but trying to see which one. Maybe a ZZ plant. ZZ plant might be a good option as well. But if you don't want, if it's not technically a succulent, it's very succulent like. This is a Zenzi ZZ. So this is kind of like a dwarf ZZ plant. It stays pretty small and pretty compact, but it is succulent like, but not technically a succulent. If you want something interesting, a Zenzi ZZ might be a great option, and it'll take that eastern light straight on and be perfectly fine if you like that option. I'm trying to think, but yeah, I think those for the most part. An aloe. Oh no, sorry, that's a succulent. But yeah. So let's see here. George, is the direct sun indoor through the windows a lot weaker than outdoor? Yes, definitely. So especially one, depending on just being the fact that it's even inside changes the game, because when a plant is outside, it's getting that sunlight from different directions. But once it's indoors, it loses that overhead option, essentially. It's only getting it from one direction. So that's why you have to rotate your plants. But it does definitely decrease the intensity. And then depending on what type of windows you have, even the type of pane, like the window pane, can change the percentage. Also, if you have like some type of like decal or like those frosted windows as well, that can help diffuse it. Curtains as well. If you have really strong, let's say southern light, and you want to have a nice amount of plants, but you don't want them to get burned, even just putting like a sheer kind of white curtain that's see-through, it's enough to weaken the sunlight somewhat so that it doesn't actually burn your plants. But yeah, and the plants, yes, that was the Dracaena trifasciata. So tri-T-R-I fasci F-A-S-C-I-A-T-A trifasciata. I think so. I think that's how it's spelled. But yes, that was the snake plant that I just showed. So it's like this really dark, rich forest green with these like almost black. It's a darker green, but it looks almost black. These bandings, and I think they're so beautiful. And so I have quite a few of those around the house. I have different types of snake plants, but I love those. It's just such a gold, rich color that I really like. And so Terry says, I read that spider plants prefer shade. Is that why the leaves are so thin? Not enough sunlight. So they do like eastern light. I had a spider plant that did really, really well in my southeastern window. It was exploding. It was flowering, babies. It was doing great until it got attacked by spider mites. But it was doing great. And so they don't want really strong light. So they will get burned by like southern light. If you keep them in a western window, they're great during the day, but during that golden hour, that really strong evening sun, they could either be moved or a shade could be drawn so that they don't get burned. But they do appreciate a little bit more sunlight. So just from my experience, I found that when I pulled her away from the sun too much, the leaves would start getting thinner. They would kind of start getting yellow. And when I would bring her towards the sunlight, she was doing a lot better. So so she seemed to be fine in a southeastern light. African violets, do they sleep during the winter? Not necessarily. So they're a tropical species. They don't technically like die back and then come back like species that grow where they have an actual like winter with snow. But they do go through a dormancy period. Most tropical plants do, because we're introducing them to areas that do get really cold. So it's more so of a period of rest where they're not actively growing. They're really not actively doing anything. So but if your home is tricking them into thinking that it is still the growing season, so while our home, for instance, there are these fluctuations where the temperatures did drop and the humidity did drop, it is still pretty consistently, even at its coldest indoors, it wasn't dropping below 65. So technically, a lot of the plants still think it's growing season. And so our plants are still pushing out growth, except the plants that are closest to the window. Those aren't really pushing out any growth because it's colder there. But all the plants in the interior are still under that assumption. So they'll still keep putting out growth during the winter. So you might not get any blooms from your African violet during the winter, especially if you're keeping it really close to your window. But you can, if you give it a grow light and you up the humidity and the temperature, you can probably get it to bloom throughout the winter. So if you wanted to try. Al says that the Jade Dracaena hated the sun so much, it twisted away from it. Poor thing. Yes. So this is a cool thing. This is actually called scototropism. And so when plants move towards the light, it's called phototropism. So photo meaning light, tropism is movement. So it's movement towards the light. But then plants also do have the ability of scototropism, which is to move away from the light. And some plants use this for their advantage in regards to, so a lot of vine kind of, or vine-like plants use this specifically to find a host or basically a plant to use as scaffolding. So like pothos, for instance, uses scototropism. And so it will be growing in a nice sunny spot on the forest floor, and it will purposely grow towards the shade because the plant just recognizes that if there's shade, there's something. So is there a wall, a tree, a rock? There's something that it could start growing over. And so it will grow over, it'll kind of keep growing until it hits something and then starts growing on it. There's this really cool TikTok that I came across, and I need to do my own research about it, but it was crazy. But there's this type of plant, and the name is escaping me. But it has this ability to mimic the leaves of the plants. It's a parasite. So the prevailing theory was that when it tapped into the plant, it kind of got a peek basically into its genetic code. So it would know, oh, I need to make my leaves. So I guess to be imperceptible, right? So nobody could remove the plant because it looks like the leaves of the actual host. So therefore it kind of blends in, it kind of camouflages in. And these leaves literally have the ability to change. So the theory was, again, they're kind of they're combining genetics, and that's why it's changing. But then they were doing more experiments, and they did it with a plastic plant. So there's no DNA involved, and the parasitic plant grew on this plastic plant and started changing its leaves to look like the plastic plant. And this changed the original theory. And so the working theory right now is that these plants have the ability to sense a little bit of light and shadow, and essentially can kind of basically get a picture of what the host leaves look like. And then they, in turn, mess with their own genetic code to look like that leaf, to kind of create a mirror image of this leaf. And so that's what they're saying. It's changing the way that we thought that plants see. So there was this always understanding that they do, of course, detect light. So they do detect light, but maybe there's more to that. So they can detect light and shadow and maybe rudimentary shapes. So this is pretty cool. So so I will do more research about that to share with you. But super, super excited. And Jamie there is a plant light at a table stand, or does it go on the floor? I'm thinking I need one. Oh, this one. No, this one is attached here, but I do have one that stands that works really great. Hold on, here we go. It's right here. So so I have this one. I'll put it up here. Let's see if it works. Almost. There we go. So I have this one. It has a little remote. It has one, I think, that's detached, and then it has one that's attached. It has these four, and it completely gooseneck. It's a tripod, and I mean, it gets pretty tall. So right now I think it's at its shortest, but it can go taller. So it gets up to 60. It gets up to like this high, something like that. And it has different settings. So it does the pink light, it does warm lighting, it does like the bright white full spectrum light, and it does like a mix of different lights. So this one is great. I love this one, especially now during the winter time, where my my western window, while you can see it's pretty bright, you can see the light on my hand, it doesn't go as far as it usually does. So usually it goes as far as here. So you still see there's a nice amount of light, but it's not as strong. So during the summer, I do keep some plants on my bookshelf, and they get really great light. But during the winter, it's just not as strong. So I'll set up the grow light and kind of move that around. But I really recommend those standing lights. I got that one off Amazon. And I have like two of them. I have two of them. I have one in here and one in the bedroom. Totally like it if you want a freestanding light. This one, it has like a claw, so it's attached to the table. But I love this one too. These I have like 6 of these throughout the house. These are great. And they're gooseneck, so you can completely move them around. You can change the brightness, and these are set on timers. So I have these running 12 hours. So from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., these all get direct light. Yeah, because I have a lot of my like smaller succulents. I have like some harder to find succulents, like some of my euphorbias and things behind me. So I keep them on a schedule, and they're so far so good. But yeah. Oh, it was a Janet Craig Tracina. Okay, yes. Yeah, I can see how it would burn. And yes, I have some hanging pots. If I've tried a coco coir basket, not indoors. So I haven't tried a coco coir basket indoors. I'm just kind of, I did have a basket, but then I would have smaller pots inside that I would bring down, water, and then put them back. So the plant wasn't actually living in the coco coir basket. I'm just worried if I were to, when I'm watering, that I have wood floors, so that might go wrong. But yeah. And Al is saying, is it okay to repot a plant at any time, or should I wait till the spring to repot? Great question. And again, it goes back to the current kind of ambient temperature in your home. So if your home is pretty cold and your plant is not actively growing, then most likely it's more in that dormancy period. So a lot of the energy is kind of focused on the roots. It's just trying to keep itself alive throughout the winter. So it's not actively growing. So if you were to repot it when it's in that state, what ends up happening is that it's the energy, again, they were focused on the roots, and so it's not gonna, if you damage the roots during repotting, which always happens, you can be as gentle as you want, there's always going to be some damage. It might not heal as quickly. It might not start growing new roots at all, and then it starts to rot. So it's usually advised against repotting in the winter. However, if your home, you're keeping it at like 70 degrees, it's nice, it's humid, your plant has no idea, it's not being affected by the cold weather outside, you kind of have like your little bubble, so you don't have to worry about that. You can repot it anytime. If it's an emergency, I've definitely had to, repot things. If I have cats, I have pots fall all the time. So I've been trying to switch now from like terracotta to some like nursery pots again, because when you have cats, there's just accidents that happen. So but yeah, I've had to repot in the in like for emergency reasons. But yeah, as long as if your temperature is pretty good and you're giving it kind of an environment to grow, it bounces back really quickly. But if you repot a plant that's, let's say, by your window and it's not growing, it's kind of in that dormancy, and then you repot it and put it right back towards your window, right where it was, it might not do as well. Yeah, so unfortunately. Definitely, if you think it's outgrowing the pot, you can wait a couple more months, definitely. Plants like dracaenas, a lot of aeroids, so like philodendrons, monsteras, they don't mind being a little root bound for a while, so you can definitely wait a couple months. Now I did want to show you so some scale today. So hold on one second, let me so what is scale? So it is an insect. Hold on. Here we go. So I put the videos in order here. So just to show you here. So this, if it decides to, hold on, where'd it go? It decided to, where'd you go? QuickTime. QuickTime, what'd you do with my video? 1 second. I pressed play on the video and then it disappeared. Hold on one second. Where did it take my video? It did something to my video. Let's try this one. So how do you know you have it? So I just wanted to show you, this is my mom's plant. It's a Dieffenbachia. This was really a funny story. This was in 2019. We were walking. My mom loves to just take us walking basically throughout a lot of areas for sightseeing. And we were walking through this area, and there are plants that you would buy at plant shops growing in ditches where people are, throwing trash. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And so people also are actively pruning, and they're throwing stuff like in piles. And so you have pieces of all these different type of plants all the time. And so it was during one of these walks where it was literally growing in a ditch. And my mom took a cutting, and it was a really beautiful plant. And so she took a cutting and she's like, let's see if I can get this to grow. And this was a cutting about this big with 2 leaves on it. And it's grown into this 6-foot plant since 2019. Absolutely beautiful plant. But the issue is that it got a really bad scale infestation. And so she hadn't noticed. They've been kind of, when they water the plant, she waters it with a watering can. So she wasn't really actively looking at the plant for a while. So it got pretty bad. So I told her not to worry. I would do like a preliminary cleanup of the plant, take video so that I can show my students what a really bad scale infestation looks like, and then left her instructions on how to keep up with the follow-up care. So so that you can see it's pretty advanced here. So what's really interesting about scale is, so there's the male insects and the female insects. So the male insects, the scale insects, they do have the ability to fly, and the females are very basically stationary. And so what happens is that they like to gather along these little like veins of the leaf, as you can see. They gather along what's it called, areas with along the stem, for instance. So and it's basically because they're taking out the juices of the plant, right? So they definitely gather here. Are you able to see the video on my screen? Just double checking. Let me see here.
It's stuck.
Oh, it's stuck. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Here we go. Do you see the video now?
No, it's like a picture now, just a picture.
Okay, let me see.
You can see the where you can stop it and start it, but everything is frozen like.
All right, let me see. Why is it doing that? Let me stop the share, and then let me try that again. Wonder why it was doing that. Share screen. Let's try that again. And then it did it again. Okay, can you see this video?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, now.
So, yeah, okay. So this was me going over it with just water and a paper towel. I was trying to see how badly they were stuck on there. And thankfully, they were coming off rather easily. So they weren't really as stuck on as I was worried they would be. So you'll see I open up the tissue to kind of show it's pretty gnarly. But these are all scale insect. And so what you're seeing here is the female, what she does is she climbs onto the plant, she fastens herself up in there, she picks a good spot, and what she's doing is she starts secreting these kind of wax layers, and she kind of creates like a turtle shell of sorts, and then she kind of glues herself to the plant. So this is why it's difficult to sometimes remove them just with a paper towel. You might try to do it, and even with your nail, you might struggle a little bit. So you might end up having to use something like a needle to really pop them off. But with scale insects, they come in different colors. When they're babies, they're kind of a translucent white kind of color. Sometimes they'll darken up into like kind of like these oranges, red browns, dark browns. There are black scale insects. There are kind of looking purple even, but the most common ones is brown scale. And you can really see it has what is called a nucleus. We're not speaking about like a true nucleus, but rather just the coloration, where you see that the edge is kind of a lighter color, and it gets this darker color in the center. But these thankfully were coming off rather easily, but it was pretty extensive. So I had to go over several times in hopes of getting some of this off. And you can also see that it tends to attack newer foliage. So there was this leaf, for instance, that you see is still coiled up. It never got the chance to even open because new leaves are very supple. They're very soft. So the soft tissue is very attractive to pest insects because it's easier. It's just easier for them to tap into. So you can start to see that, especially in infestations you might not have noticed, is when you get a new leaf and the leaf starts to do poorly, that's when you might catch, oh my gosh, I have thrips, I have scale, I have mealies, aphids. They all love to go after new leaves. So sometimes that ends up being the giveaway. So it's unfortunate. This is pretty bad, but I had no choice but to cut off that leaf. But thankfully, by the end, so these videos were taking on different days, but by the end that we were leaving, even though I had cut off one leaf, she did put out another leaf, and she actually had two leaves that were starting to come out at the base. So the plant is okay. This definitely causes them to lose vigor. So your plant might look really kind of sad. It might look very fainted. So it definitely doesn't want to have all that scale there, and it was pretty extensive. So let me show you. Here, I think it's this one. Hold on. Let me stop the share so that I can close this one out. There we go. And there we go. And so there we go. So I had to remove two leaves. So one was that new leaf that was just not faring well. It was never going to open. And then there was this older leaf that I had to just take off because the damage to the leaf was pretty substantial. You can see here all of that kind of, it loses some of that green on top. Let me see here. So it loses some of that green on top. It was just severely damaged. So I just decided it was probably best for me just to remove. There was plenty of other leaves to still catch light. So I wasn't too worried about that. But you could see they're also, they stick to the bottom of the leaf. So here you can see, so they do follow and still get on there on the bottom. So always check the bottom of your leaves as well. And if you're doing any type of treatment, make sure that you're checking the bottom as well, and you're cleaning the entire leaf with sap sucking. Yes, someone put in the comments for sap sucking. Yes, that's definitely what they're doing. Let me see here. And this was, there we go. So this was right before I cut those leaves off. But you can see I was cleaning off the new leaf. So this was a leaf that was coming in right after the original leaf that got completely destroyed, never even opened. And so I cleaned that off because that one started to get scale. So you can actually see where the new leaf is, follow that stem, you can see some kind of white dots, and those are the beginning. So yeah, so those are fresh scales that haven't hardened off yet. So I made sure to clean that leaf thoroughly, and then I went after the stems, and that's when I decided to cut these leaves off, these 2 leaves, because you can see just how bad it is. It was just better for me to go ahead and cut those, because there was one that, again, that new leaf was never going to open. You can see it's already turning brown. There was no point. So the plant would be expending energy trying to keep that leaf alive for no reason. It's just a waste of energy. I'd rather that the plant channel its energy into the new leaves. And also, you know, by taking off a lot of these scale, giving the plant a little bit more attention, it'll just end up, you know, making it a little bit more resilient as well, because you want to make sure your plants have a good enough immune system. So given the fact that the extremity just how extreme this infestation is, and the fact that the plant still looks relatively good, so it is pretty a pretty you know, strong plant, not for nothing. But oof, this was not fun to see. And then let me show you. So then let me see. So this was a few days later. Let's see here. Okay. QuickTime, where'd you go? QuickTime. Why does it keep moving my video? Oh, here we go. Why is it doing that? QuickTime just keeps making my video disappear. Let me see if I can find the video. Why does it make my video disappear? Hold on. Oh, here we go. So let's try. Why does it do that? Is this the video? I think this is the video. Yes. There we go. That was weird. So this is, I don't know why it minimized it and put it in a corner. So this was a couple days after. So just so you can see, I was trying not to stress the plant out too much. So there was a lot of me touching the plant and cutting, scrubbing the leaves. So for the leaves that had really bad scales that were just not coming off when I rubbed them, I did wet them at the very least, and then I applied a very diluted mixture of alcohol. It was like 1 or 2 drops of dish soap, and then just water. And I applied it on there, and I kind of left them like that. So just to see if I can loosen them up, and it did work, because they were fastened on there But when you start really kind of going in and trying to scrape them off, you can do a lot of damage to the soft tissue of the plant. So I was trying not to kind of go overboard with the poor plant at once. But here's a great example where you can start to see that 2 new leaves started pushing out. So towards the bottom, you can see these 2 new leaves curled up. And so that was a very good sign that, you know, she's still happy, who's still putting out growth. But yeah, she was having a rough time. So I was showing, I had just gone over again with just a paper towel with water. And I was going over areas that I had already gone over, and the bottom of some leaves. And you can see just how the difference, right, between the leaves that were being cleaned. And I purposely left this one leaf. I had put some of that mixture on it, this leaf that you see that's like absolutely covered, because I just wanted to show the difference between cleaning the leaves and not cleaning the leaves, just to show you just the drastic difference. So it was pretty substantial, but you can just see how much better the plant is looking in comparison to how we started. And so this was over a period of a few days. However, when you're working with your own plant, you want to do this and wipe them down and treat them at least once a week. You want to try to get as many as you can off, preferably all of them if possible. It might be a 2-person job if the plant is pretty large. This was harder because this plant was huge. So it was not a plant I could easily pick up, or I could easily take and put in the shower or take out to the yard to give a spray down, because this is a pretty large plant. And it had a giant begonia that's growing at the base of it, which is huge and tall, also a big plant. But that one is not affected by scale at the moment. So I was telling my mom to just keep an eye out, but it looked like it was doing great, had no scale. So the scale seems to just be attracted right now to this plant. But just really wanted you to see this, and you would want to treat this plant and kind of do these cleanups for a minimum of 6 weeks. But 10 weeks tends to be the sweet spot with a lot of plant treatments, because you want to make sure you got all the stragglers, there is nothing left. So the goal is that at least cleaning that plant once a week for 10 weeks. By the end of 10 weeks, you should see nothing. And then it's just upkeep. So remembering to check the plant every time you water it, give it a great, little inspection, make sure nothing is getting on there. It's great if you kind of schedule in leaf cleaning more regularly. So for instance, I like to do it when I'm watering my plants. So we have such a large collection that for me, it's just easier to do all my plant maintenance when I have the plant in front of me. So when it's time for watering, that's when I do everything. So I have to clean the leaves. Do I have to add more soil or touch up more soil? Do I need to give it a spray down with alcohol? Do I see something that I need to treat? So when that plant is in front of me, it gets the whole top to bottom. Is there something wrong with the pot? I check everything because, again, I'm probably going to put that plant down and not look at it for 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, if I didn't pay attention, this is what ends up happening, right? This is, of course, was more than 2 weeks. My mom was just kind of watering the plant. She just really wasn't looking at it for a few weeks. It kind of got out of control there. So so I hear, yeah. So you could just see the new leaves coming in and just that stark difference. And then I cleaned, here we go. And then there was the last one. Here we go. Nope, this was an old video. Showed me, oh, there we go. This one. So then I wanted to do, to kind of show you, right? So I had left that mixture. So this was one of those leaves that was really ingrained in there. It was really, really difficult to get some of these scale out. I had purposely, because it was so difficult, I was like, I'm going to leave this leaf for last. And then it's also a good kind of example to show the difference, right, between the leaves that how just dirty and covered in scale they were. So I left with this with a mixture of soap, a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and like 1 or 2 drops of dish soap. I kind of put that into a little container. I dipped my paper towel in there. I kind of gave it a really kind of superficial kind of rub, and I let it just sit. And so this was the next day. So I started cleaning off one side of the leaf, and it was coming out just so much easier. And so I had Brian hold the camera so I could show you the process for the opposite side. But you could see with one side, that was 2 kind of going over with a clean paper towel after letting it sit with that mix. And the other side, I had only just had the mix applied to it, but hadn't been rubbed down yet. So I wanted to kind of show you just how effective that was. But you can see them, how they cling right to the edges of the vein. And they just spread. They'll spread really, really quickly. I was talking to my mom and explaining to her that she was gonna have to go with the veins because some of them were really, really ingrained there. So I was just gonna show her just how easily. And so you could just see how much easier they came out having sat with that mix. It just with for that leaf specifically, just a paper towel with water was just not doing it. And I didn't want to damage the leaf, make a bunch of holes in it, rip it up. And so just putting that mixture, kind of letting it settle in, it starts to kill the scale. But it also, the dish soap actually helps kind of loosen up that wax as well. So it makes it just so much easier to take off. So you can see how they're just disappearing as I'm wiping them down, and that leaf is being revealed once again because it was pretty bad. So I gave it another once over before I left, and I tried. Here you could see just how the back of the leaves do get scale, so you need to make sure you clean that off as well. But let's see. I'm gonna hopefully get some positive updates. I asked my mom to see if she can shoot some video and pictures to just show. Here you can see that sometimes they're as easy as you can still remove them with your nail. Sometimes if they're really fastened in there, which can happen on the stems, you might end up having to use a needle. So yeah, it was a process. And this is, I'm just showing the top part of the plant. It kept going down. So it's a very large plant, but I definitely wanted to get some footage and just show you. It can be very tedious work. So it's not necessarily an easy thing, but if and you might say, this is too much work, I can't do this, I have things to do. You might just end up wanting to toss the plant, and I completely understand if that's if that's your choice. But if you do have an emotional attachment to the plant and you don't want to lose it, scale, again, out of all the pests, I hate thrips, I hate spider mites, but like aphids, mealybugs, scale and mealybugs, they're related, they're in the same family. Honestly, I would rather get those because that is something that at least I know I was showing that the new leaves are growing in. And at least that is something I can work with. It's something that my plant can come back from. I'm not necessarily going to lose my plant, you know, unless the plant is a very tiny plant and the infestation is pretty bad. But for a plant like this that is big, established, has a lot of leaves, you know, growing, huge tall plant, you can bring it back. You can bring it back. It's just a little bit of manual labor, a little bit of elbow grease. But I did want to just show you that whole process, because this was, yeah, I felt so bad. And especially we do have that emotional attachment to this plant. It's a nice memory of one of my trips there to visit my mother. And she's, you know, it's been very lovingly cared for and got so big. And then over the last few weeks, my mother had gotten a cold. She was also preparing for our arrival. So she was kind of on autopilot. She was just kind of watering the plants and she was not looking at her plants. And it happens. It totally happens. And then you don't realize and you end up having an infestation. So I didn't see any other plants had scale. So only this one. So that was really interesting. And the begonia that was under it, it's a large cane begonia. So it has these giant leaves. It's huge, it's super tall. And it had no scale. So I thoroughly checked it. No scale at all. Brand new leaves popping in. And this plant is actually right under a skylight. So you can see that overhead light. So she has this huge skylight over the dining room. And that's why this guy is so happy, happy there, because it's just getting that really nice sunshine. I really want skylights. I need skylights. If I could have my whole roof as a skylight, I think I would. But yeah, just to show you how to deal with a really bad infestation. So so you can see what it looks like. How did you get it? Like, how could it have come to the house, right? So a couple things is they'll travel on your clothes. If you got a new plant, you can definitely, if you have the plants in close proximity to one another, that can end up happening. Also, if you reuse old soil, that can happen. A pot that wasn't cleaned very thoroughly. Also, sometimes it's just, as I mentioned, it can kind of travel on your clothes. Sometimes they can be on your hands. So maybe you were outside working on a plant, didn't realize, and then you come inside and you're like, oh, and you're kind of fiddling with your plant. And there you go. You became a conduit. You're a carrier of this pest, and you end up passing it on to your plant. And so yeah, so it ends up spreading that way. In terms of prevention, so what could have been done differently? As I mentioned, wiping the leaves, trying to honestly schedule it into your care routine. So if you know that your plant gets watered maybe once a week, maybe every 7 to 10 days or so. So make that your time to really look at your plant, because I understand you're living a fast-paced life. You have things to do. You have deadlines. You have work. You want to make sure your plant doesn't die, but you know, you're like, you have a lot of things going on. So it's just when you water the plant, that's that moment that the plant is in front of you. So just take a second to look at the plant, especially if you know that you don't want it to get something. And then having something as simple as rubbing alcohol. So that is something, just wiping down the leaves, even giving it just a quick spray with rubbing alcohol. This is 70% rubbing alcohol. I personally do not dilute my rubbing alcohol. I just put it directly on my plants. I personally haven't had any plants get burned as a result, but always do a test spot. If you're much more comfortable diluting it, so you want to at least maybe do half alcohol, half water. If you're more comfortable with that, that should still work fine. But this is just a really great preventative measure. I give them a quick spritz, and it also helps when I'm wiping them down. So I'll give them a quick spritz, then I wipe them down, and they're fine, move on to the next plant. So, you know, prevention like that. Other options, if you have an infestation and you're like, well, I don't want it to leave this plant, I'm treating the plant, but I don't want it to leave. Scale insects move very, very slow. The males can fly, but you can use something like diatomaceous earth. So diatomaceous earth, you can definitely use that. And have that kind of sitting on top of your soil. You can also use it, take a little paintbrush and brush it on your leaves if you think you might have baby scale insects kind of still hanging out, and you want to kind of kill them before they can create like a waxy coating. Other things, you can technically use something like systemic pesticides, but I don't really recommend that. It is effective, but a lot of them can actually end up burning your plant in the process. So it's like, maybe as a last resort. And with personally with us, we like to use integrative pest management. So we purposely introduce, you know, different types of predatory invertebrates to our home so that they can feed on scale insects, or if we get mealies or thrips, which was happening during the summer, which was a nightmare, and ladybugs to the rescue. So ladybugs, we use also green lacewings, predatory mites as well. So anything you can get your hands on that could be potentially helpful. That ends up just working out better. They're harmless to people. They usually just stick to the plants because if there's an infestation, that's where the food source is. So they kind of just hang out there. We came back and we've been having ladybugs land on us, and seeing them kind of walking on the furniture and stuff, and on our plants. So, you know, just letting them be, but they definitely help if you're looking for prevention or to deal with a current infestation that maybe you're like, I don't have the time to attack and clean this plant. So putting some insects on there might actually do the trick. They might still just have a buffet. And then, you know, you can focus on other things. So that can definitely be helpful. But yeah, there are certain things like a hydrogen peroxide drench to clean the soil. If you're going to do that, that is something you don't want to do with your plant very often because hydrogen peroxide is very corrosive. So if you do that, you can do 1 part hydrogen peroxide and like 3 to 4 parts water, so that it's very, 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 very diluted. You can do that in order to kind of give that soil a drench in case there's anything in there. But just recognize when you do that, you are also killing all of the beneficial microorganisms that are in your soil as well. So if you do have an environment where maybe you have predatory nematodes, or maybe there was isopods or springtails or millipedes or things that were in your soil, keeping your soil healthy, there's bacteria, archaea, fungi. That's your pots, your potting mixes are little environments, are little ecosystems. And more often than not, there are some beneficial creatures that are coexisting with your roots. And this actually helps your plant. But when you do things like hydrogen peroxide drenches, just recognize that you are killing all the good stuff too. It's like when we take antibiotics, we're killing, sure, all the bacteria that is in our gut, or that's affecting us, but we also end up killing a lot of the beneficial gut flora as well. So it works pretty similarly. So that's also one of those last ditch efforts. But diatomaceous earth is very effective. Integrative pest management, very effective. And also just physically, like manually removing them with like paper towels, water, a little bit of alcohol, and dish soap. If you are going to use dish soap, though, make sure it's non-degreasing. So use something like Castile soap or Myers or something that's very gentle. If you use a degreasing soap continuously, so if it's like a one-time thing and you have like a drop of Dawn or something like that, it should be fine. But if you were to use it continuously, our plants have what is called a cuticle, which is a waxy kind of covering. And what happens is that degreasing kind of ability of the soap ends up actually destroying that wax coating on the plant as well. So that's why you want to avoid using that kind of repeatedly. So try to go for, have one on hand, like maybe a little thing of Castile soap or something for when you need it. And you don't need a lot. A couple drops go a long way. But yeah, you can, so if you have a scale infestation, do not fret. You can definitely, you can bring your plant back. I have some comments, hold on. Deanna, yes, could you have wiped the begonias as a preventative? Absolutely. And I did tell my mom that while I did check them, to keep checking them and to definitely wipe down the leaves as a preventative, top side and bottom of the leaves, just to be sure, and to check the stalks. Because right now they look perfectly fine, but that doesn't mean they were going to stay that way. So it was pretty bad. So Brenda asks, would you quarantine the plant to prevent the scale from spreading? Absolutely. So that plant was all by itself in the living room. So sorry, in the dining room. So it was the only plant there. And the problem is that it was the begonia was living inside the pot. So I couldn't separate either or. But if you have a plant and then you realize, oh my gosh, there's an infestation, yes, definitely move it away from your current plants and then check the plants that were closest to it in the immediate vicinity, just in case they may have been infected, or maybe they were the carrier, maybe they were a recent addition to your collection and they ended up being what kind of introduced it to everybody else. But yeah, and in terms of how they can be introduced, again, is just by touching. And what's really unfortunate is sometimes we might have the best intentions with our plants, but we can end up doing harm to them even when we're touching them. So when I'm working with one plant to another, especially when I'm watering, I end up doing a lot of this, just alcohol wipes before I move on to the next plant, because I'm scared of, even if I don't see anything on the previous plant, I don't want to pass anything along, because you can pass on not only pests, but you can also pass like fungal spores on your hands. You can pass bacteria, and you can pass things like mosaic virus. So while the virus isn't going to affect you because it only affects plants, it can go on your skin, and then you can end up touching another plant and then passing it along. And with mosaic virus, there's no cure. So with most plant viruses, there's no cure. And sometimes if the plant is healthy and happy, it can have the virus and for years, because its immune system is strong enough to deal with it. So it suppresses it. But then as soon as the plant is vulnerable, maybe there's a season change, or it recently got repotted, or something like that, where its immune system kind of plummets, that's when the virus goes, it's my chance. And you might have a resurgence. So yeah, it can totally happen. George, that's great. So George put a little bit more information about scale. So scales are an immobile insect that suck plant juices from many types of trees, shrubs, and houseplants. Scale infestations can cause yellowing or premature dropping of leaves. Sticky honeydew, or blackish sooty mold, plant parts can distort or die back depending on the species and abundance of scales. Yes, so we can see with my mother's leaves, while they weren't turning yellow, they were starting to get kind of like this lighter green patches. And the newer leaf was starting to turn brown, so it was going. Now, the leaves were very sticky as well. And so this is honeydew. And I know it has a cute name, but really what it is essentially the waste product produced by the insects. So they're sucking on plant juice, which is basically sugar water. That's what's coming out the other end. And what happens is with honeydew is it's literally that, it's sugar water. So ants are very attracted to honeydew. They love it. And so if you start to actually have your plants outside, for instance, and your plants start to feel sticky and you start to see ants, it's because ants actually tend to protect scale. They protect scale and mealies, which again are in the same family. And they protect them because they're producing the honeydew. So they'll fight off ladybugs and things like that because they want the pest basically to keep giving them honeydew. And so they protect them, kind of like a shepherd with his flock. They just protect them, and they'll fight off predatory insects. So seeing ants is also a really good indicator that you might have a pest. Because there are a few species of ants that might live. There are plants that have a symbiotic relationship with ants that ants can live inside. But if this is definitely not that kind of plant, and it's kind of sticky, that's a great indicator. And with black sooty mold, so black sooty mold is a specific type of mold that grows on honeydew. It's very attracted to honeydew. So thankfully, it's one of the easiest molds for you to get rid of, because all you have to do is clean it with a paper towel. So it is growing and eating the honeydew that's on the leaves. It's not actually eating the leaf itself. So if you just wipe it down and the leaf is clean, you're all good. So of all the molds to get, you don't have to worry too much about sooty mold because it's relatively easy to clean up. You just got to give your plant a nice wipe down. But yeah, and George, quarantine. Nobody is a stranger to this word after 2 years in COVID. Yes. Exactly. Yes. And so you would have to quarantine your plants. Of course, always quarantine your plants even when you just bring them home for the first time. So that's why we tend to have like our bookcase. We like to kind of quarantine our new plants there. And so I'll keep them there. They're on the other side of the room. And that's, they're getting a nice amount of light. And I can check on them and make sure they're good to go. So usually they stay on that shelf a minimum of like 2 to 3 weeks. I tend to leave them a little bit longer. So they might be there for like 4 to 6 weeks before I go, okay, cool. I think the plant's good. Let me find its permanent home. So always quarantine your plants because you don't want to inadvertently get a new plant, bring it home, just put it here with your old collection. And then you just, wake up to a bunch of mealy bugs, because that can absolutely happen. It can be very, very quick. And it can happen with plants that you quarantine, but maybe not that long. So I had a Dracaena, it was a Dracaena marginata, and it was like 2 summers ago. And I purchased it and I left it on my bookshelf for about 2 weeks. And I thought it was good. I looked at it, I gave it a great inspection. I was like, all right, this looks great. And I was trying to clean up and I said, oh, it's been 2 weeks, it's fine. And I put it in my bedroom. And I did not realize until the next time I went to water it, I saw a bunch of mealy bugs. So I gave it a good cleaning. I was like, maybe it's fine. I moved it away from the other plants. And then I started seeing mealy bugs on my Hoya, mealy bugs on like a different type of cactus. I think it was one of my smaller dragon fruit pieces. And I was like, oh no. So it can still happen. So that's why I try to leave them a little bit longer on my bookshelf, just to see, in case, because I learned the hard way. But yeah, I hope that was helpful. I hope the video was helpful. I figured that recording the process, might just help folks kind of conceptualize it and see it rather than just pictures. Ooh, my voice. But I hope that was helpful. I'm gonna try to combine them and do like a voiceover, and post that in case that might be helpful as well. So let me know if that was something of interest. But yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in today. Next week we'll have a Q&A, so we'll just pop in and I'll answer questions. So definitely come with your questions. But yeah, I hope everyone is having a good start of the week so far. Just kind of getting into the swing of it. Hope the beginning of your year has been good. I'm like, oh, I have so much work. So I'm like hitting the ground running right now. But yeah, so just take care, everyone. Please stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, the rest of your week. And I will see you next week. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye for now.